First of all, this is a sad day for the Boston Celtics. And as a former Celtic, I do not approve of this trade. If you're going to trade a guy that's a top 10 player, you at least got to get back a guy that's a top 15, top 20 player. And Paul George is not that. Paul George hasn't been consistently good since I was skinny.
Wow, it's done. It's over. The Jays are officially broken up. I don't know if I can't believe it or if I just don't want to. Not like this. After 10 years, the MF forgave you 10 years, a championship, and if you're new to the channel, you should know I'm far from a Celtics fan. Even though Jayson Tatum is my favorite player, I'm a Hornets fan, so I know a thing or two about suffering. In fact, as you know, in this fantasy draft of an offseason, the star player from my favorite team just got traded. But this is different. This just hits different. I was talking to my buddy when it happened. It was so casual too. We were saying how crazy the Lakers are being, teaming up all these unathletic guys. But then I saw it, the Shams notification, and I genuinely thought I was dreaming. Jaylen Brown traded to Philadelphia for 36-year-old Paul George and some draft picks. Nah, there had to be more to it. No Edgecombe or anything. I would have personally demanded VJ at the very least. This is one of those NBA trades where you read it once, read it again, close the app, open Twitter, open Reddit, open TikTok, because there's just no way this is real. Except it is. The Celtics have officially traded Jaylen Brown to the Sixers in exchange for Paul George, 2 first-round picks, and 2 second-round picks, ending one of the greatest duos this league has seen over the last decade. Enough to make a grown man cry, man. And before we start roasting Boston's front office, I think we gotta appreciate what just ended, because this isn't just another trade. Bro, this is the end of an era. Like, I don't think y'all understand.
But can the Celtics win a title with Tatum and Brown as their cornerstones?
No. I'm gonna say no.
It's time to break them up.
They don't work together. When one is doing something, the other is standing around spectating.
They can't coexist.
They at times look like they've never played together.
You have to break up the duo. Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are in this unofficial standoff for who's supposed to be the leader of the team. Constant tug of war for who should be best.
Me, I want to win. You want to win?
Yeah.
What they gonna say now?
Apparently they still have a lot to say. But for right now, we gotta look at how Brad Stevens of all people butchered this thing. Or maybe you don't think he butchered it at all. Let me know in the comments. Maybe I got some of those JB hating analysts watching this. Who knows? But okay, so 2 firsts sounds kinda nice, until you remember who we're talking about. This is Jaylen Brown, the dude who literally carried Boston for most of last season while Jayson Tatum recovered from his Achilles injury, with career highs across the board. 28.7 points, 6.9 rebounds, 5.1 assists, finished 6th in MVP voting, and somehow Boston looked at all that and said, yeah, let's move him. Bro, what? They really are determined to have that gap year, huh? I know people love talking about the failures though, and all the ones who said JB and JT can't coexist and play together are probably going to use this as an opportunity to say things like, they only got 1 ring, they couldn't stay together, look at all the times they kept coming up short. You know, hating stuff like that. And to that I say, can we stop for a second? Because people are already rewriting history. You should understand Jaylen Brown spent 10 seasons in Boston. Think about that. 10 years, 5 All-Star appearances, All NBA, and most importantly, 2024 Finals MVP and an NBA champion, and one half of arguably the defining Celtics duo of this generation. Heck, maybe even of all Celtic history. When Boston drafted Jaylen back in 2016, most people hated the pick, thought he was picked too high. He was considered too smart by most GMs, but was mostly a random guy to most people. Then 1 year year later, they drafted Jayson Tatum. Nobody knew those two kids were about to spend nearly a decade growing up together in front of NBA fans. We've literally watched them become men, from awkward teenagers trying to earn minutes on a crowded team at that, then to conference finals when they weren't supposed to heartbreaking playoff exits, to finally lifting the Larry O'Brien trophy together in 2024. That's rare nowadays. In today's NBA, stars ask out every other Tuesday. Everybody wants a new team after the coach's wife looks at them funny, a new super team, a new city, and a new podcast to announce it on. But not these two, at least not to my knowledge. I don't believe Jaylen never publicly demanded out. JT never demanded out. They just kept hooping year after year. You don't really realize how special that is until it's gone. And now it's gone, and I don't know if we'll ever see something like that again. And honestly, the part that's gotta hurt the most isn't even basketball. It's breaking up JT and JB. Those two have known each other since Tatum got drafted in 2017. Actually, a lot of people don't know they've known each other even longer than that.
Oh, I think that was a Under Armour elite camp or something like that. It was like some type of all-star game in Brooklyn. Whatever, I got MVP at that game too. Stuff like that. I was probably 17, 16 or 17. And actually Jayson Tatum, JT was my roommate there at that camp. It was crazy because like a lot of the camps that I went to, either JT was on my team or my roommate. It's kind of scary to even think about right now. Like,
it was almost predestined.
Like it's like if we did a visit, JT and me and him was always like they had us sitting next to each other. Like when I went to Kansas, we got pictures when we both took a visit to Kansas. We were sitting next to each other. We was roommates at the KD camp.
Yeah, that's where he shot y'all.
Yeah, we was roommates at that. We was roommates at Elite 24. We played on the same team on, some of those Nike camps. So it was like crazy how like that ended up lining up.
They've spent almost every important basketball moment of their adult lives together. You could tell there was genuine respect there. And watching any clips of them together now hit completely different because you realize that chapter's over. And I don't think Celtics fans expected it to end like this, especially not with Philadelphia of all teams, the team that literally embarrassed Boston in the first round after coming back from a 3-1 deficit. That's where you're sending him? Bro, that's like your ex breaking up with you, then dating your next door neighbor the very next week. You gotta see them every single day. That is pain. And unfortunately, we're just getting started. Because when we start looking at who Boston actually got back, that's when things go from surprising to straight up unbelievable. Paul George. And before I say anything, I want to make this very clear. This is not Paul George slander. PG is one of the smoothest wings I've ever seen. Personally, as a player in their prime, I like him over JB because at his peak, he was that dude. So if this trade happened 7 years ago, bro, we're having a completely different conversation. Like, if Boston somehow landed 29-year-old Paul George, basically the same age Jaylen Brown is right now, I probably wouldn't even hate this trade. I don't think anyone would. Just take some picks off and it would be a pretty fair trade. Back then, PG was putting up around 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists, finishing top 3 in MVP voting while being one of the best two-way players on the planet. That Paul George? Yeah, you can sell me on that. But that's not who Boston traded for. They traded for a 36-year-old Paul George, Podcast P, or Percocet P, depending on the time of year apparently. Anyway, yeah, a 36-year-old PG who's making around $50 million a year after missing significant time over the last couple seasons and averaging just over 17 points this past season, which is kinda impressive for how bad he was when he was trying to do his podcast and play at the same time. But bro, that's a completely different player. It's like somebody told Boston, hey, I know your iPhone 17 Pro works perfectly, but would you trade it for an iPhone 11 and a couple Apple gift cards? No. Who is saying yes to that? The funniest thing is, I just noticed they're basically trading a streamer for a podcaster. That's kinda hilarious. Jaylen Brown is out here streaming, building his brand and stuff, still in the middle of his prime. Meanwhile, Paul George got one of the biggest basketball podcasts on the planet when he does it. Except, the podcast isn't the problem. The problem is you're paying a 36-year-old about $50 million. That's where the Celtics start looking cooked to me. And what really gets me is reports before the trade had multiple teams checking in on Jaylen Brown because why wouldn't they? He's an all-NBA wing entering his prime. One of the biggest rumored offers involved Denver being willing to discuss a trade centered around Jamal Murray. Now maybe Boston didn't love that deal, cause I certainly don't love it because Jamal Murray is Jamal Murray. So yeah, maybe it was, or maybe Denver wouldn't include enough picks. Maybe negotiations never got that far. That's fine. But if Jamal Murray was legitimately on the table, you're telling me this was the best package you could get? Really? Even if you didn't love Murray, like I don't, why rush? Why not wait until the trade deadline or even next offseason? Jaylen is 29. Superstars don't suddenly lose value overnight. If anything, a desperate contender usually pays more. Instead, Boston sold low on a finals MVP coming off the best season of his career. I just don't get it. But let's not just focus on the return. Forget the return for a second. The part that is even worse is where you sent him. Philadelphia. Bro, Bradley Stevens, come on. The same Sixers team that just embarrassed you by climbing out of a 3-1 series deficit. So you lose to your rival, then hand them Jaylen Brown? That's like losing in the championship, then helping the winning team get even better. You're basically saying, you know what you guys were missing? Our second best player. Congratulations. Now Joel Embiid doesn't have to carry every possession. Tyrese Maxey gets easier looks, and Jaylen Brown slides in as the perfect two-way wing. If Embiid stays healthy, there's honestly no excuse for him. Philadelphia has every reason to believe they should come out of the East now. This absurd blockbuster immediately changed the conference outlook and should have many analysts viewing the Sixers as legitimate favorites out East, especially since I just saw a former teammate of Brown, Anthony Simons, also sign with Philadelphia. Got me thinking, man, the rich keep getting richer, and even though this Philly team has a lot of unproven players, there's just no excuses for this team to underachieve this next season. And that's before we even know what LeBron James decides to do. By the time you're watching this, maybe LeBron has already shocked the basketball world again and found a way to join the Knicks or something. I don't know, man. At this point, nothing surprises me anymore. This league is pure pandemonium, and nothing makes sense anymore! And somehow, Boston might not even be done. As crazy as this trade is, there are already rumors floating around that Boston might not be done, and I'm wondering, is Jayson Tatum next? Now personally, I still think that would be insane. You don't trade away a franchise player unless he asks out or you're getting one of the greatest packages we've ever seen. And let's be honest, Boston seems in love with this man. I don't blame them really. But after watching Boston trade Jaylen Brown, honestly, who even knows anymore? Nothing feels off the table. And if I'm Jayson Tatum, I don't know how I'm feeling right now. He's honestly probably a little excited, but for almost a decade, Jaylen Brown has been right there with him. Through the playoff heartbreak, the finals losses, through all the media saying they couldn't win together, through all the trade rumors, through finally proving everybody wrong. JB was your battle brother, and now he's gone. I genuinely wouldn't blame JT if part of him started wondering what the future looks like. Would I want him to request a trade? Absolutely not. Even though he would look dope in a Miami uniform, and I hear they're going after one of his inspirations, Bradley Beal, in free agency. So, I don't know. But for the time being, and here's where some Celtics fans might disagree with me, as much as this hurts, part of me is actually excited for him. Like I said before, Jayson Tatum is my favorite player in the NBA. I've watched this dude get criticized for years. Too soft, not clutch, can't lead, overrated, not top 5, all that yada yada every single season. People move the goalposts. If he wins, they had a super team. If he loses, it's all his fault. Bro can never win, but I still believe that when he's healthy, Jayson Tatum is a top 5 player in basketball, no question. And if Boston really is entering a new era, then this is his chance. No Jaylen Brown and no excuses. No, he got carried. No, he had too much help. Just him, with the entire basketball world watching. But that's also how legacies are made. Sometimes the greatest stories don't start when everything's going right. They start when everything falls apart. So yeah, I'm not a Celtic fan, but I feel your pain, and I know this hurts. But as someone who's watched JT his entire career, I'm honestly excited to see what he does next. Win, lose, or draw, live with the results. But I think the results are gonna be freaking epic, dude. Anyways, I've yapped enough. But before I end this video, I just want to say one more thing. On behalf of Celtics fans and supporters everywhere, I want to say thank you, Jaylen Brown. Thank you for 10 incredible years in Boston. Every time you represented the city with class. Thank you for helping bring Banner 18 back to Boston. Nobody can ever take that away from you. I really hope Philadelphia ends up being a place where you're appreciated and respected, because after everything you've accomplished, you've earned that. And I hope you keep proving people wrong. The Stephen A. Smiths of the world, people who still somehow underrate your game. Go make them look silly and prove you're not some 7th best player. Because if there's one thing Jaylen Brown has done his entire career, it's prove people wrong. From the draft night boos, to becoming an all-star, to becoming a champion, and even becoming finals MVP, he's always found a way. So Celtics fans, whether you loved this trade, whether you hated it, one thing should never change. Jaylen Brown gave everything he had to this franchise, and for that, he deserves nothing but respect.